Close your eyes for a moment. I want you to go back, not to a holiday or a happy memory, but to an ordinary Tuesday night when you were just starting your second year of elementary school. At this age, your world should have been filled with the scent of fresh notebooks, the sound of laughter on a sunny playground, and the kind of deep sleep that knows no worry. But for you, it wasn't. You were sitting at your small study desk, your tiny hands gripping the wooden edge so tightly your knuckles turn white. The air in the room is thick, so thick you can almost feel it vibrating with a frequency you don't yet have a name for, but every nerve in your body feels it. From the next room, it's not just a conversation, it's the terrifying roar of your father. The sharp, jagged edge of his shouting, the sound of chairs being kicked over, the rhythmic thud of his fist hitting the table so hard that even the dishes in the kitchen tremble in fear. And then, the sound of something breaking. Shatter. A cold, sharp noise that tears through the space, signaling a fracture that cannot be repaired. Then, your mother's crying begins. It starts as a whimper and grows into a full, desperate, heartbreaking sob. In the middle of that chaotic symphony of violence and tears, her voice rises, cold, sharp, and final. I am so sick of this family. Those words weren't just a vent of frustration, they were like a red-hot needle driven deep into the psyche of a second grader. Family, the place that was supposed to be your sanctuary, your fortress, the one place where you are safe, was the very thing the woman who gave life to you wanted to discard. You sit there, frozen like a statue, trying to make your body as small as humanly possible. You ask yourself, if I get better grades, will he stop being angry? If I just disappear, will she stop suffering? You are trying to use your little brain to carry the wreckage of adults. And the most painful part? Nobody even notices you are there. They are too busy drowning in their own emotional storms to see that you are drowning right next to them. This is where it begins. Not with one explosion, but with 1,000 quiet moments where you realized that nobody was coming to save you. You stopped being a child and became an emotional adult, the peacekeeper, the silent observer, the one who holds their breath just to keep the world from collapsing. When you grow up in a house where safety is a temporary guest and peace is a luxury you can't afford, your brain doesn't just grow, it rewires itself for war. Psychologists have a clinical term for this, hypervigilance. But for you, it wasn't a diagnosis. It was your heartbeat. It was survival. You became a master of the invisible. You learned to decode the subtle language of a closing door. Was it a gentle click or a heavy thud? You knew which version of your father was coming home just by the way he turned the key in the lock. You could sense the emotional temperature of a room change before a single word was even spoken. While other kids were learning to play, you were learning to be a radar system, constantly scanning the horizon for the next storm so you could find cover before the first lightning strike. This clarity isolated you. You saw the rot in the foundation while everyone else was talking about the color of the curtains. You understood why your family struggled, why your parents' love was a weapon they used against each other. How do you explain to your friends at school that you feel like a 40-year-old soul trapped in a 10-year-old body? Their problems, the games, the toys, the small social slights, felt like static to you. Your problems were life and death. You fell in love with solitude, not because you were lonely, but because the darkness and the silence were the only times nobody expected you to fix them. In the silence, you finally didn't have to be a shield. The most exhausting part of this journey isn't the trauma itself, it's the hope. It's that dangerous, flickering light that refuses to go out. Even after years of disappointment, you'd hear them pulling into the driveway, and your chest would fill with that foolish urge to try one more time. You'd think, maybe tonight will be different. Maybe tonight they will finally see me, not as the strong one who handles everything, but as their child who is desperately struggling to stay afloat. But reality is a cruel teacher. You'd open your heart just a fraction, and a snide comment would fly in, or a drunken outburst, or a guilt trip over something you had no control over. And you would feel it happen in real time, the moment hope finally dies inside your chest. It's not a loud sound. It's a quiet hiss, like air escaping from a punctured tire, slow, steady, and final. Eventually, the math of your life changes. You realize that the cost of trying to be loved is higher than the cost of being alone. Self-preservation begins to scream louder than the need for approval. You decide that they don't deserve your vulnerability anymore. This isn't because they are monsters. In their own broken ways, they might think they love you. But you realize you have to choose yourself, because you are the only one left to save. You become your own parent, your own protector, and your own therapist, because the people who were supposed to hold those roles are too shattered to even hold themselves. Do not be fooled into thinking this pattern disappears once you get your own keys and your own address. It doesn't vanish, it evolves. It follows you into your bedroom, your office, and your friendships. In your romantic relationships, you become the runner. The moment things feel too good, your nervous system sounds an alarm. It has learned that closeness is just the waiting room for pain. So you sabotage the love you finally found, just so you can be the one to decide when it ends. At work, you are the overachiever who is burning out in secret. You refuse to ask for help because, in your mind, needing help is a fatal weakness. It's an invitation for someone to let you down. Among your friends, you are the reliable one. You listen to everyone's tragedies, you provide the shoulder to cry on. But when they ask how you are doing, you compress your entire aching inner world into two hollow words. I'm fine. You learned very young that your pain was an inconvenience to the people you loved, so you learned to swallow it until it became part of your DNA. And then there is the guilt. The world tells you that because your parents fed you, because they clothed you, and because they didn't leave physical marks, you owe them your soul. Society calls you ungrateful. But emotional neglect is a ghost. It doesn't leave visible scars. It just carves out the center of your heart until there is nothing left to give. You can understand their trauma. You can see how their parents broke them. But understanding their pain does not grant them a permanent license to continue damaging yours. Eventually, you wake up and the weight is simply too much. You realize you have spent decades performing a role in a play you never signed up for. You are a caregiver who was never cared for. You were the one holding the umbrella for everyone else while you stood soaked in the rain. You were the one saying, "It's going to be okay," to the very people who were supposed to be saying it to you. Then, the final betrayal happens. It might be a big event, or it might just be the quiet, heavy realization that you are finished. The mask becomes too heavy to wear for even one more minute. You make the choice that feels like a sin to the rest of the world. You cut contact. You leave the parents who see you as a mirror, the siblings who have become messengers of guilt, and the old friends who only liked you when you were the silent observer. The guilt will come for you in the middle of the night. We are biologically programmed to believe that blood is thicker than water. But remember the true, ancient meaning of that proverb. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The bonds you choose out of respect and shared soul growth are more sacred than the ones you were born into by chance. You might keep only one person in your circle, the one friend who knows that your silence isn't a weapon or a rejection. It's your recovery room. Years will pass. Eventually, they will try to reach out. Perhaps they are older now, or perhaps they need something. You pick up the phone, thinking that maybe time has done the work you couldn't. You try, one last time, to explain why you walked away. You lay out the patterns, the neglected child, the hypervigilance, and the pain. And they will act like they didn't hear a single word. They will filter your truth through the sieve of their own narrative. When you say you were hurting, they will say they were the ones who suffered. It is a special kind of hell to talk to a parent who acts like a mirror that only reflects their own perceived victimhood back at you. This is when the final puzzle piece clicks into place. You realize they don't actually want a relationship with you. They want the version of you that made their lives easier. The child who smiled, stayed quiet, and never complained about the cold. But that child is dead. You buried them so that the person you are now could finally breathe. You stop responding. You don't do it to be cruel. You do it out of a radical acceptance that some people will never change, and you are no longer willing to set yourself on fire just to keep them warm. Walking away is not an act of war. It is an act of survival. Think of the old dog sitting on a rusty nail on a porch. He whimpers and he groans, but he doesn't move. Why? Because it doesn't hurt quite bad enough yet. You aren't saying the porch is evil. You aren't saying the house shouldn't exist. You are simply refusing to sit on the nail for one more second. When the guilt feels like it's going to swallow you whole, I want you to zoom out. See yourself from the roof of your house, then from the clouds, then from the curve of the earth. Finally, see yourself from the stars. We are just stardust playing human for a few brief decades. In the grand timeline of the universe, none of this lasts. Not the family drama, not the debts of honor, not the judgment of people who never had to walk in your shoes. You have the absolute right to play your cards in a way that lets you live, not just survive. Protect your soul. It is the only one you were ever given charge over. Choose peace over the performance of a happy family. Choose freedom over the crushing weight of obligation. In the end, saving yourself when nobody else even realized you were drowning isn't just a choice. It's a masterpiece. This is Thoughts We Hide. If you have had to walk into the silence to find your peace, know that you are not alone. Be free. Be you.